You are live.
That's a miracle.
And it has begun.
Yeah.
Can you see that face there right there? Come on, lean in this. There you go. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So good morning. We're on the clock, and I know we're a little bit early, but we're just waiting on a couple of people to get on. We have about 2 minutes till we get started. And I've got a guest with me today I've known for 62 years. And it's my dad, and he's going to talk a little bit with me about consistency and about success and how you can be successful by being consistent and doing the right thing all the time. Dad's 86, and so he can speak from that perspective better than I can and better than most people can. But I thought he'd be a good guest today as he was popping in on me this morning early. And so I just drug him down here to the Legacy Lodge, as you can see behind me, which is where we're going to be holding Manhood University. And so anyway, we've got about 1 minute. So if you click on, just tell me that you're here, say hello. And I have a picture up of Jordan Ranch, and we will definitely use Jordan Ranch for both Top Gun and Manhood University. And so if you haven't seen the ranch, that's the foyer with the large fireplace and the kudu that was taken in Namibia. So we gather there quite a bit as men. And of course, we won't use the fireplace right now because it's 1,000 degrees hot outside. But it is a great place in the winter to start that fire up. But so we've got 9 o'clock right now, and as you come on, just let me know that you're on, and we'll greet you at that time. But anyway, so today, again, my guest is Gale Watkins. He's my father, and the only father I have. And so my brother and I are the only children of my dad. And how many grandkids do you have, Dad?
5.
5 grandchildren.
And 3 great grandchildren.
3 great grandchildren.
Another one on the way.
All right. The 4th is on the way. And it's been a great journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Dad has been a principal of schools, a superintendent. He's been a coach, a teacher. He's done many things in his life that gives life experience. He's a follower of Jesus Christ today. He lives in the Matagorda Bay City area and goes to church down there faithfully. And today we want to talk about living the life, not just a life, or not just living the life that Jesus promised us we could have. There's one caveat in there is we have to live it the way he tells us to. And if we follow the coach, if we follow the teacher, we follow the instructor, then our life will be an abundant life. He promises that. And so, Dad, at 86, when did you really start serving God, in your opinion? About what age? Do you remember?
Well, I guess God was in my life from the time I was a little bitty boy because of a Sunday school teacher in Matagorda. But I didn't get to start serving him until late in my life, probably in my 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, like a lot of people, I was just too busy for God for a long time. He was there. I had the Bible on my desk even when I was a coach and when I was a principal. Most of the handbooks I wrote as a principal or as a coach for the rules of our team came from principles of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So, people, irate parents would always want to know, where did you get these rules?
Mm-hmm.
And my only answer was, most of them come from the teachings in the Bible. And, but, life is just, the Bible is so simple and so complete that I just don't know how to explain it. I just want people to understand, don't get so complicated and so sophisticated that you don't understand the basic fundamentals of right and wrong. And God's there. And you can't, even when you're a little bitty baby and don't know anything, when you started to do something wrong, you had a tugging on your heart that told you were wrong.
Mhm.
even though nobody taught you, and our society has gotten to a point where we have to tell everybody everything. And I believe that fundamentals are the answer. Our society's got to back up to the fundamentals of right and wrong
Mhm.
with our children. All the kids I had in school, the students that were there,
Now, this is when you were a principal?
our coach, it
Okay.
didn't matter. They understood black and white,
Mhm.
and they functioned well. But when you take them to the gray area, nobody, including the teachers, can function too well.
Yeah.
We have an unwanted guest, this fly.
It's Beelzebub.
Yeah.
He's joined us today.
But
We got to cast him out.
I think years ago I learned, I was a young coach in Pasadena. I was a defensive coordinator in one of the bigger schools in Texas. And they sent me for a spring training with Bum Phillips at Port Neches Groves. And during that time, him and Bum Phillips and Bear Bryant were developing the numbers defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I can always remember Bear Bryant telling him, he said, Bum, there's 9 functions for each position. And this was from Bear Bryant over the telephone. I heard it in person. He said, in 4 years, if I can get pristine athletes to do 4 of them perfectly, I feel blessed. So he said, I'm telling you, in high school, teach the fundamentals and stay away from the fancy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it always rung true with me that I would rather a student knew what to do, when to do. And like on a test, we talk about the Texas tests and all this stuff. The test isn't the enemy, it's the vocabularies. If the students know what they're reading, they can answer it.
Yeah.
But if they don't understand the vocabulary, which is the basic fundamentals of every course, then they understand how to pass the test.
A lot of people don't even understand what that word means. I mean, I think maybe in a general way, fundamentals, but when you change from school business to football, when you change from football to basketball, the fundamentals are different, but they are the things that you base your whole game on. Is what do you do instinctively, naturally, that you've practiced a million times, the fundamentals of the game. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So how does that apply to us as Christians? We need to practice the fundamentals and get away from the light shows and get away from the entertainment industry and get back to, praying for people, loving on people, doing inspection on our own self, reading the word, praying in the Spirit, things that you do every single day that raise your awareness of God. And also when it comes to prayer, we talked about the 3 ways last week of getting faith. Our faith plus his presence brings his faith. Those things, if they become the culture in our world, they'll become answers to miracles, will become the way of life. And that is what Jesus said when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life in John 14. And he said, no man comes to the Father except through the Son. So if you're going to get the presence of God, you got to go through Jesus. And what I mean by going through Jesus is not just saying in Jesus' name, you have to emulate his life. And that's why he gave you the word of God, so that you can know what his life is like.
True, but in the last 15 years, there's one thing I've heard left out of most churches.
What's that?
That's the kingdom of hell. You never hear preachers talk about hell anymore.
Okay.
When I was a kid, that was one of the first things the old preachers used to pound the pulpit and talk about was hell, fire, and brimstone. And they scared the hell out of us.
Yeah, that's right.
But today, we're too namby-pamby. We're too nicey.
What do you think we at churches are afraid of?
Well,
if that's true.
Social acceptance.
And why do we want to be socially accepted?
Because we want attendance.
And why do we want attendance?
For money.
Okay. So basically we got to pay bills.
Well, yeah, but if you don't,
I mean, I don't see any of those most of the people, I know the churches you go to, I don't see those people running around in rich clothes and rich, it's, to me, it's more of just the pressure of having to take responsibility for all the bills that have accumulated.
Well, that's true, but there's two ways I've found that every day we all wonder, am I good enough to go to heaven? That's the question we all ask ourselves every day. We should ask, did I do enough good to go to heaven? There's only two ways that I've found in my life that you can kind of measure how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
Do I really give my tithe? Or do I sit in the pew and argue with Jesus every Sunday morning over do I have enough money?
So let's stay on that for a second.
What?
So if someone's listening to this today, and thousands of people are, and then they're going to say, well, you just made a statement that makes me think I have to buy my way into heaven. That's not what you're saying.
No, I'm saying if you don't give, you're not going to get.
Well, if you don't give, it tells where your heart is,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You said it's a what do we call it? It's a
fundamental.
It's a thermometer.
Yeah.
It tells where you're at. You don't tithe to go to heaven.
No.
You accept Christ to go to heaven. That's what Romans 10:9-10 says. I believe in my heart and I confess with my mouth Jesus is Lord. And because of that, and Jesus said in Matthew 13:13, you should tithe. So I do what Jesus says because I love him and I'm in a covenant with him. It's not hard for me to tithe. My tithe goes to save souls. So I want everybody else to know him like I know him. To me, that's a pure heart. And you have to understand that about tithing. And I think that word right there just fixed about 1,000 people.
If you ran from that word, then you ran from everything.
Yeah.
So you're in trouble. But, it's just a way that I can check my bank
Heart.
account or whatever you want to call it, my faith
Mm-hmm.
is, am I tithing? Am I giving beyond my tithe?
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to believe that. But ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I got more today than I ever had when I worked. And that's because God is taking care of me every day. And I believe obedience is a key to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Students that are obedient in school, which is 98% of them, never have any problems. The people that are obedient in life have very few problems. I'm 86 years old. Do you know I've never paid a traffic ticket, parking ticket, or any kind of ticket?
Does that mean you never got one or you never paid one?
Well, I never got one.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure that people understand what you're saying there.
I'm scared of the law, so I'm not about to not pay it if I got it. But
well, it does take you twice as long to drive as it takes me. So I know that. I go right at the speed limit. So I don't want to break it either.
I drove up here this morning and never exceeded 55. So, I just enjoy the drive. But I think that how many times today and tomorrow and day before today, how many times did you say the word God? You can count those. And he says in Matthew that if every time you say my name on earth, I will repeat it to my Father who is in heaven of your name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I knock on that door, I don't want him I don't want to be a New Orleans Saints fan and have him say, who dat? I want him to say, come on in here, Gail, because hellfire has no glamour for me.
Amen.
And that's the thing that I think that when I was young, I heard that young people today don't get to hear was the benefits of hellfire.
Well, Dad, if you studied the Bible, and I haven't gone through and counted everyone, but I heard someone I trust say there are more scriptures where Jesus spoke of hell than he talked about heaven. And he lives in heaven. And I said, well, I wonder why that is. Well, it's because he's been there and he doesn't want you to go there. The reason Jesus went into hell, took the keys from the devil, it says he took the keys of death, hell, and the grave back from the enemy because Adam had given those to him. That's what Jesus did. He reversed the curse by getting the authority back for us as believers. Well, he doesn't want you and I to go there. He knows what it's like, and hell was not made for you. Hell is not made for people. Hell's made for Satan and his angels. And the only people that go to hell are the ones that want to. That's the only ones that go because they've heard the truth and they've decided not to. Now, we're here to save you by giving you God's truth. He is the way, he is the truth, and he is the life. And no man comes to the Father, to heaven, except through Christ. And so you can say, well, I don't know if I believe that. You will. When you take your last breath, you will stand before heaven. We're here as people to plead with you and say, look, just trust him. There is no other way. This is the way, and he's a good God. He's not a taskmaster. I want to read this, Dad, this scripture to the people. This is John 14, 1 through 6. Now just listen to this. 14, 1 through 6 says, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. This is Jesus speaking. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. He's talking about you. And if I go and I prepare a place for you, I will come again and I will receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you do know, and you know the way. And Thomas said, Lord, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know the way you're going. How can we know that? And Jesus said, Thomas, I am the way. I am the truth, and I am the life, and no man comes to the Father except through me. In other words, Thomas, you've lived with me for 3 years now. You've eaten with me. You've slept in the same area I slept in. You've done everything with me. You've seen me do miracles. The example that I led for you is what I want you to understand is the life I want you to live. I want you to heal the sick. I want you to do the miraculous. I want you to care for people, widows and orphans. Do what I did. Be an example of me. Duplicate what I did, and you'll have the life I have. My question is this: are you ready to start doing something supernatural? Are you satisfied with the natural things? I mean, I love all the blessings that God has given me. I mean, look at Legacy Lodge. I'm sitting here in this incredible lodge where we're going to have Manhood University. This is awesome. I get to work at the ranch and work at the church and work for God and travel the world. But I've seen all the beaches in the world that I need to see. They're wonderful. But nothing can change your life like praying for somebody in a wheelchair and watching them get out. Why not live that level? Wouldn't you like to live in that level? Well, then you need to enter into this thing, because he is the way, he is the truth, and he is the life to that level of living. He said, I am the life. That's the life of faith that he's talking about, that you get to enjoy because you're a believer. Dad, you and I were talking about, you came in this morning, we were talking about fundamentals. We were talking about football. We were talking about how it equates to life and how you teach those things. You mentioned Bear Bryant just a minute ago, and one of the most successful coaches that we know of. And how can somebody be fundamentally sound, or how can they practice the fundamentals on a daily basis for their walk with Christ? What are some things you've learned? What do you do first thing in the morning?
First thing, that's what I was going to say. The first thing in the morning, you get up and you read the Bible. Yeah, and start on one end and stop on the other, and read the Old Testament and the New Testament. And realize this: the Bible is a living, breathing book, and it interprets different for me than it does for him. When I read it, it interprets to me on the basis of 86 years of experience. It interprets to GF on 63 years of experience.
62.
I'm sorry.
62. Yeah. Let's not add any more on there. I've still got a month left.
Trying
Thank
to
you.
give him a little more experience than he has. But I think that everything that this ranch has done, and I was here when it was a cow pasture and watched it be built. And I think everything that's happened here has been successful, from the initial intense movement, which went from 700 or 800 kids up to people up now to close to 2,000, to the shot put and discus school that we put on here, and we have 5 or 6 full scholarships coming out of because of success. Because here they're taught the fundamentals. There's nothing flamboyant here. It's all fundamentals. And that's what I think Manhood University will give to somebody, is the basic fundamentals that you need to live on. You know, I go back to the defensive lineman that I coached all my life. There's the big difference between a defensive man and an offensive man is a defensive man has that long to react.
Do that again because they
Yeah.
couldn't see.
You know
Hold
how
your hands
long
up.
a football is? A football is 12 inches long almost. And he has that much time to react if you're on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because when that ball is snapped, he has to go into action. And I think that that's fundamentally the practice things that we do in life. We react. And a lot of times we react wrong because when it would be good to step back and play pass defense and evaluate the situation, we go forward and get run over when we could have stepped back and slid off to the side and made a successful play.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that fundamentals in life, in the way you live every day, are the greatest things. I said this morning, I've been a success. I can put my two sons up against anybody for success.
That's why I got him on the show.
And I think that this means more to me than anything is don't be an expert until you can turn around and say, I did it. You can all talk it, talk the talk, but it's hard to walk the walk. And that's about the toughest thing I can tell you is I grew up where when my stepdad said something, you better react, and you better react in the way he taught you. Because if you didn't, there was a consequence. And I hope to goodness all of y'all are raising your children to know there is a consequence. And in life, our consequence, if you don't live toward Jesus, remember this, you can't die alone if you live with Jesus. And the consequence is hell. And hell ain't no place to be. That's the best advice I ever gave anybody.
Thanks, Dad. Hey, I'm going to ask you one more question too about something that happened to you this year, not too long ago. But if you guys look on the screen, this is Manhood University. Who do you know that needs to go here besides yourself? We need young men. We need older men. We need white, black, and brown men. We need men because right now we are changing the world. Pastor Robert has been in Kenya now for a week. We were in Namibia a week before that. We've been in India, Sri Lanka. We go to Peru, Pastor Jose. We are all over the world, not because we're going without invitation. People are hearing what's going on at this ranch. They're hearing about the epicenter of biblical manhood. They're hearing about fathers and sons, just like my dad and me and Robert and Frank and Carvin, these men. It's imperative that you understand what we're doing has been done for 30 years. A lot of people talk about it. Very few people actually have experienced it. You need to be here so you can get this model and duplicate it in your church and in your ministry. And we will send you these places we already have open. And no doubt God will introduce you to someone over there that will open new doors for you specifically. That's how these things have worked in Italy, in Romania. Dad, I had 2 Romanian pastors in my house the other day. I'd never met them. It was a son. Jose met them in Italy and Romania. And then he went, give me just a minute. And so when he did that, he broke some chains in Romania that opened up the doors for us to go in and to minister. So I just want to encourage you. Manhood University is a launching pad for you. It's 1 year. You will meet in this building and at this beautiful ranch for 4 times a year, 4 quarters. And you will stay here a couple of nights. So all your registration, everything pays for all that room and board, nice steak dinners. We treat you really well out here. Plus, you get to hang out with people that are doing the deal. Dad, this year you had a situation where you'd lost some blood.
Yeah, I bled 3 pipes.
And you basically you went out. You were laying on the floor in the hallway of your house. I was 2 hours away from you, and you told me something because it made me think about just a minute ago when you encouraged them about life and death and heaven and hell and eternity. Tell the folks. Everybody wants to know what happens when I'm about to go. What am I going to think about in my final minutes? And you said something kind of profound. I think every man wonders what's that last few seconds going to be like. And you actually felt like you were going to heaven.
I knew I was going. I was hopefully I was going to heaven, but I could not. I told my wife I loved her, and I wanted to tell Jeff and Brett that I loved them. But I was the most peaceful moment of my life. For 86 years, I've never known the peace that I knew in that period of time, which wasn't very long, I'm sure, but I put my head down on the floor and decided God was taking me home. And I didn't see the flamboyant lights and all of that. All I knew was the place I was going was sure nice. It sure was peaceful. And then all of a sudden, a voice came and said, "Not today, Gail. Not today." That's the best I can hear, I can know. He sent me back because he has a purpose for me at 86. I keep reading about Moses. He was 85 when God sent him to Egypt. So I'm 86. I'm still waiting, waiting for. I'm looking in the mail every day for the map to come.
Well, he might have sent you to Matagorda. You have to realize that now.
Yeah.
I'll leave it right there. But yeah, I think that's such a great word when you think about, someone who's, and Dad talks to me periodically about, outliving most of his friends and his classmates. And, what do you do? Have you planned for that part in your life? And then I read on the phone every day or in the news that, so-and-so passed away at 35, 27. We're not guaranteed anything. This man has outlived most people that he knows. And so, he and I and Brent, my brother, we've become very close because we're the only ones that have known each other that long. We have a lot of history. Who do you have good history with? And what team are you working for to change the world? That's what Manhood U is about, is developing good friendships, good relationships with people that have something in common. And that is that we're going to change the world. Manhood and Christ-likeness are synonymous. Being a male is a matter of birth. Being a man's a matter of choice. You will be introduced to General Jerry Boykin, the man who ran Black Hawk Down. He'll be one of our teachers. Bill Wilson, the man who started Metro World Child. He has 350,000 kids a week that he is responsible for around the world. These are just a few of the men that you will meet. You'll meet Poppy here. You'll get to come and go fish. You'll get to go hang out. It's not just classes. It is working together, getting to know each other. And then every week after that, you will be on a Zoom call working on the project that you were given between quarters. And then when you come back, you will give a presentation of what you were able to accomplish in the area of finding and evangelizing and mentoring men. Listen, the last thing I'll tell you is we have just established something in the state of Texas by this approach that's taken us a long time, but we were able to get chaplaincy legalized for the local school districts. Every school has the right to now hire a man to be a chaplain, someone that is spiritual, someone that has a Bible, someone that's possibly trained to carry an armed weapon and to protect these kids, and they'll pay you well to do it. If you're interested in that, go to the same website, gfwatkins.org. Go there for Manhood U. Go there for Top Gun. Go there for Jordan Ranch. We're here for you, and we are an epicenter of biblical manhood, committed to training you to be not just a good husband or a good boy, but to be someone that's responsible for God's family, going around the world preaching the gospel. So I hope that's what you got out of today. Be consistent. Know that he is the way, the truth, and the life. And also know that he said, I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. We're going to train you how to have faith to have an abundant life. Any last words, Dan?
Yeah, I just remember one thing. We're not going to just teach you textbook learning.
Right.
We're going to teach you life experiences. And I just think that's so important because you don't become an expert in life without living it. And too many people want to stand up and say, I'm an expert with my PhD. Well, show me what you've done is my answer.
So when you come out here, we're going to show you. And I think you're going to be changed. Give us 1 year. It'll be worth 20 years of just attending church on Sunday mornings. It's been great being with you, Dad. Thanks for being with us today. I think it's like trying to take a drink of water out of a fire hydrant today. But I appreciate you guys staying with us. May the Lord richly bless you. Continue to serve him and get a hold of us at gfwatkins.org so we can help you with Manhood U. Look forward to seeing you. Thanks again, Dad.
Bye-bye.